The date is October 26th in the year 2023. My name is Anita Hecht, and I have the great pleasure and honor of interviewing Mr. Richard Henkle on behalf of the Finnop Foundation and the Garden City Oral History Project. And we're here today in the Community Congregational Church in Garden City, Kansas. So thank you very much for agreeing to participate.
You're welcome.
So as mentioned, we're here to capture some of your recollections and the changes Garden City has gone through, with a particular focus on the innovations in irrigation technology that you've witnessed and also participated in through your family business. So just to set the stage, why don't you tell me when and where you were born?
I was born in Meade, Kansas, which is about 65 or 70 miles south of here, so I'm told. Born in 1934 in the middle of the Dust Bowl, and I have no recollection of that living there, because we moved within a year or two back to central Kansas. And we lived in McPherson and in Larned, all in Kansas, at different times. My dad was a salesman and an innovator, and we moved to Garden City in November of 1941.
Okay. So I want to find out a little bit more about your father and his side of the family. Can you tell me a bit about the family history, where they were from and how they ended up in Kansas, and anything else you want to share?
My father's grandparents came from Germany, and his parents came from Illinois to Oklahoma around Ponca City, and they participated in the Cherokee Strip run. This was not the Oklahoma run as the famous one, but it was another one that they lined up with their wagons and their horses, and the gun went off and they raced south to try to stake out their property. Mm-hmm. And so my dad was born in Oklahoma around that point, and lived there for a few years before family moved around different reasons to Kansas.
So they were able to stake a claim?
They staked a claim. They had to go into the capital then, which was not Oklahoma City, I forget the name of the town, to record their claim. While my grandfather was gone, some other people came in and staked the claim, Sooners. And,
that's what they called them.
Yes. And so his claim was not accepted. He had to go back and find other property.
Okay.
And did stake the claim. My grandmother was used to Indians coming by and usually stealing chickens, and she was there by herself quite a bit, and quite capable with a shotgun and self-protection. So my grandfather was off doing business at various places, and so that was the history of
Interesting.
Of that family.
I think you mentioned when we first started working together that he discovered silica sand.
Yes, they when we lived in Meade, Kansas, about 3 years. I was there for about 3 years. They tell me silica was sand is a certain quality and size of grain that was used in Old Dutch cleanser, which some older people might remember. Old Dutch cleanser. Well,
it was an abrasive.
Yes, abrasive, exactly. And so my grandfather ran that plant for a number of years, and of course employed his sons and grandsons and so forth, and it was all hand labor, loading rail cars for Cudahy Packing Company, which was the company that produced old Dutch cleanser.
Interesting. So your dad grew up with some business skills, or learning some, you think, from his dad?
He did. He had a number of brothers, 4 brothers and 3 sisters, and he was kind of in the middle of that, and was pretty unique. His brother Joe became lieutenant governor of Kansas, but other than that, the not a whole lot of accomplishment to be discussed. But Dad was always learning. He was interested. He had 2 years of college, but he was kind of a self-educator and very intelligent and willing to learn.
So his name was Elmer William?
Elmer William
Otherwise
Henkle.
known as E.W.?
Right.
What year was he born in?
1903.
1903. Okay. We'll talk more about him when we get to that generation. Tell me what you know about your maternal side.
My mother was British, and I know very little about their immigration to the U.S., but they met in McPherson at Central College, and the 2 families lived there and became well acquainted, went to the same church and the same community.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a number of sisters and brothers also.
Okay.
And
when was she born?
She was born in 1902.
Okay. A year older than your father. So your parents meet and get married and are in Meade when you're born. Did you have siblings?
I was the youngest of 4.
Okay.
2 sisters born in 26, 28, and a brother born in 30. Then I was born in 34. They had children until they got a perfect one.
Right. They seem to, because you're going to be 90 next year and
That's
you don't
right.
even look close to it.
I'm joking.
So the first...
They were great kids.
Okay. I believe you. The first 7 years you were not in Garden City. So tell me about coming here and what you remember, some of your earliest memories.
I don't remember much because of my age, but I know that my dad was enthused about turning the prairie into a garden. He talked a lot about turning the brown into green, and he was interested in irrigation. He worked for the A.A. Doer Company in Larned, Kansas, selling stock tanks and wind chargers and various cattle items, and they sold irrigation pumps, most of them further east in the state. There was the only irrigation taking place at that time in the Garden City area was close to the river, where they could have shallow wells and didn't have very much lift, and the irrigation in the upper land, which is a few miles on each side of the river, was very rare, and most of it was dry land farming.
Were people aware, and we'll now start talking a little bit about the history of water as you learned about it. Were people aware in your father's day of the aquifer and how abundant it was
I'm
below?
sure a few people were interested. Most people were not. The Ogallala aquifer ranged from South Dakota in various areas clear to Texas, and the largest freshwater aquifer that we used to say in the known world, because we didn't know about the Russia and so forth,
Mm-hmm.
but a very, very large freshwater aquifer, both in range and in depth.
Mm-hmm. And your father must have known something about it. Had he started talking about it?
I don't know how he learned about it, but he was attracted to learning more about it, and as he learned more, he decided he wanted to be part of the development of that resource.
How was water accessed beforehand and used? You said it was shallow wells, so they would bring it up and irrigate how?
Well, both shallow wells and much of the irrigation was done from the Arkansas River. And canals were built from far upstream to go on the north side. There were a number of canals that are still around, but there's no water in the river to be used.
Right.
And then also the underflow pertaining to the river was a wonderful source of fresh water, but it was shallow, and it was obtained only by centrifugal force, and centrifugal lift was limited to about 20 or 25 feet, depending on the elevation, and so therefore there was a great abundance of water, but only a few miles on each side of the river. There were some wells that had been drilled, but very rare, and those were used with flood irrigation. There was no sprinkler irrigation at that time.
How did the flood irrigation work then?
Well, they had to level the ground, and that was a big industry for many years in this area. There were many land levelers, farmers that would level their own land, but also contractors that would did nothing but leveling land.
How did they do that?
With big scrapers, big Laterno scrapers and Caterpillar equipment to level land over here, bring it over here, so they had a right percentage of incline to, and it was hard work, and it was we had in this area so much rough ground that was impractical to level. So there was when we came, there was much ground that had good water under it, but really couldn't be used because the land was so rough that it couldn't be irrigated.
And plus, I think probably a lot of the water supply, at least on the surface, was dependent on rainfall.
Yes, and I have heard farmers say that when they were farming dry land, they would expect to have a good crop maybe 1 out of 5 years.
Wow.
And so you would do a lot of praying and a lot of hoping, and that the rains would come. And of course, the cost to farm dry land was much cheaper than irrigation, because you were relying on God for the rain, and maybe you did some insecticide and some herbicide, but other than that, you relied on the rain.
So it was probably quite small, the amount of viable farming land in terms of what it is today.
Yes, at that time.
So did you hear stories growing up about the Dust Bowl and what it was like before?
Yes, and saw a lot of pictures. We have a picture of my body and my bed removed, and there was the frame of my body with dust all
Really?
around it, and they couldn't keep the dust out. You know, the houses were not built as well as they are today, and it was. I didn't experience it because I was so young that I was just enjoying life, but many people, most of my relatives actually moved from Oklahoma and Texas and Kansas to California. So they were known as Okies, which was not good.
What did Okies stand for?
Well, most of the people that left the Dust Bowl were from Oklahoma, or people thought they were, so they just called anybody that came as poor people, such as in Grapes of Wrath,
Right.
were considered Okies and undesirable.
Interesting. So at what point did your dad actually begin his company?
Well, as he sold farm and ranch items to farmers and ranchers in this area from Larned, he he came about in 1937, 38, and we still lived in Larned up until 1941, but he was out here most of the time, and he saw time after time the possibilities of irrigation beyond the river valley, and talked to many farmers. There were a couple of well drillers that drilled the oil field method, straight rotary method, and drilling small wells, and there was irrigation on the highland, but not very much, and not too successfully.
Those rotary drills, were they deeper than the centrifugal ones? Did they go
Yes,
further down?
that was the reason they could not irrigate the upper land, because the water level was deep, was deeper, and they had centrifugal pumps, which could only lift less than 30 feet.
Right. So walk me through how your dad became aware of new methods or innovated new methods that changed.
Well, he became a contractor. He did not establish his company entitled Henkle and Company was what he called it, but he hired subcontractors for test drilling, and then for drilling the wells. They drilled them the oil field method with high pressure. There were 2 or 3 those contractors. He also contracted with companies that would install the pumps. He was the manager of the whole thing, but did very little of it. But as the years went by, in the 40s, he acquired a drilling rig, and then acquired other equipment, and became the contractor himself. And which is what he wanted to do all along, but he had no money when he moved out here.
So just to educate me, these deeper drilling methods, they were able to then pump up the water. How did they get the water to the surface then?
There was only one method of drilling, and that was the oil field type, where you first you created a viscous material or mud, and then you had a drilling bit on the bottom of your drill stem. It stirred up the cuttings, which were shale and clay and gravel and sand and various other trash items, and then you forced those cuttings up the hole to flow out into a pit, and then continued to circulate that as you drilled on down. The method that my dad did not invent, but was an early user, was invented by the George E. Failing Company out of Enid, Oklahoma, and it was called reverse circulation drilling. And there was great value to this, because the reverse circulation did not allow the cuttings to flow and plug up the wall of the hole that you have just drilled. And the shale and the clay would fill up those voids in the hole and actually plug up what you had just drilled. With the reverse circulation, it was exactly the opposite. You flowed water into the hole, and you sucked it up like with a big straw on the inside of the pipe. So all of the material you did not want to be in touch with the sand and gravel, which was what produced the water, it never touched the sand and gravel. So it kept it clean, and you were taking the cuttings up inside the pipe, depositing them in a pit, and then recirculating the fluid. And it became, we established that in this area, and it became the way to drill then by the big booms of the 50s and 60s.
I see.
And
what was it powered by, or how was it powered? Was it gas or
diesel or gasoline, either one. Okay. with the engines. And I wanted to point out that the value of not plugging the formation that you have just drilled was really never understood by very many people. My dad understood it. That's why we drilled reverse circulation. but it turned out that we could only drill that way down to a couple of 100 feet, and then the friction and the problems of going too deep developed. So he came up with what we called air-assisted reverse circulation, and we released large volumes of air inside the drill pipe. This lightened the column of fluid inside the drill pipe and caused the fluid to come around and up into the drill pipe, taking the cuttings with it. And it was a miracle. It was amazing. We ended up, before we sold the company, drilling 3,000 feet with that method, wow. Reverse circulation, air assisted, for the city of El Paso. So it was a revolutionary change. The layman and the people don't know anything about it. Many of the farmers understood what was happening, but our calculations were that the efficiency of a well drilled by reverse circulation, air assisted, as opposed to those drilled by the oil field method of straight rotary, was about 20%.
More efficient.
More efficient.
Mm-hmm.
So you looked at that over many years and a well could last for as many as 30 or 40 years. It was a tremendous savings by right. having the well drilled reverse circulation instead of straight rotary. So eventually, and we were drilling straight rotary up until the 1960s when we converted to reverse. Okay. We shared with our, we never hit anything, and we were not real friendly with our competitors, but
no patents or anything like that.
We did not patent anything. Dad wasn't interested at all in doing that. He wanted the value to be available for every driller. And now I believe almost every successful driller drilling those types of large diameter wells uses reverse circulation air assist.
That's so interesting. It sounds like he had a fairly, what would I call it, like an engineer's mind.
He did.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he got some decals made to put on the side of our trucks, which had a state of Kansas, beautiful color, and Henkle and Company irrigation engineering. He got in trouble with the bona fide engineers of the state, and
really?
They objected to him because we did not at that time have an engineer, a graduate engineer on our staff. Later on, we had a number of them.
Well, maybe we can talk a little bit. I want to ask you to bring your own sort of story in this, but before we get there, can you tell me a little bit about his success, how it grew, and some of how the company grew, and if there were employees, or just what
yes.
happened in terms of his
yes,
business?
I have an old Christmas picture that we put in the Garden City Telegram, and it was my dad, my brother Jim, 4 years older. He's still living at 94. Two other salesmen and two other field employees. There were about 10 of us, and that must have been when I was in high school, maybe in 48 or 49, and so we were just on a shirt tail at that time. The war interrupted his start. You know, he came out in 38 and 41. He had a good friend, Al Rawhut, who had been a salesman with Dewar, A.A. Dewar Company also. Al was young enough to be drafted. My dad was in his 30s at that time, so was not drafted. But Al went off to Europe and North Africa, and Dad was contacted about drilling water wells for Army air bases. And we had many Army air bases, Liberal, Dodge City, Garden City, Guyman, Oklahoma, some in Nebraska, and all of those needed water wells. And that was a big boost to us, although Dad had to turn his back on irrigation at that time. Things were we didn't know whether we were going to win the war or not. And so these training bases it was the Army Air Corps at that time, were spotted around, and we drilled for Lamar, Colorado, and in 4 different states. The fun thing was they needed miles and miles of security fence. So that meant hundreds of thousands of post holes. So my dad rigged up a drilling rig that had a klaxon horn on it and a saddle in the back and a driver, and it took 2 men, and he lined out drilling post holes. Thousands of them here in Garden City, and likewise at each one. But on top of drilling the wells for the base itself. And I've got a cup here. It says dry hole. That became his nickname because they kidded him about you drill all these wells and not one of them has produced any water. And those were the post holes. The city hall was at another location than it is now, but it backed up to a restaurant called the Vidor, and these people, the city manager, the chief of police, and the various city people and city fathers gathered for coffee, and they all had their own cup. And so I just found this the last few weeks, the dry hole cup.
Well, what an interesting little niche market he found.
And when he finished, this if you don't remember, but the speed limit was set at 35. You couldn't buy tires. The rubber was used for the war effort. Because Dad was a contractor for the federal government, he was able to drive 50 miles an hour, and he also got tickets for buying tires.
And tires.
And so it was a lot of fun, a lot of stress, and he had about 60 employees going to the different cities, and I knew very little about that because I was 7, 8, 9 years old, but I got the feel for it as he would have my mother driving a pickup, transferring material from one city to the other and so forth. And
so he had a number of different customers. One, the federal government. Who were his? Or did he also have municipal?
A lot of municipal drilling, although our emphasis was on irrigation, large diameter. We also drilled, of course, we've drilled most of the wells for the city of Garden City and other surrounding cities.
And then for farming operations as well?
Yes, okay. Ranching and farming, and there were boom times and there were slack times, but the boom times were really good in the 50s and 60s, and we would have farmers waiting 40 or 50 in a list. So therefore, we did not work 7 days a week up until a time when we had to. And we had been drilling 6 days a week and shut down for the weekend. And from that time on, we were drilling 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that continued the rest of as you drill deeper, it might take 3 or 4 days to complete a well. So you could not start a well on Friday if you shut down on Sunday. So it complicated things, and we were not happy about causing our employees to not have Sunday and church attendance and so forth available to them. But
how did the center pivot irrigation dovetail with the drilling operations? Because that was another innovation that I think
Oh,
really
yeah.
transformed the landscape.
Yeah, it was an innovation similar to the reverse circulation air assist drilling, except it was out in the open so everybody saw it. So that's why I've talked to Steve Quakenbush a lot about why don't we talk about bringing that water to the surface?
Yeah.
Well, it's because it's hidden, and you just assume that it's there. You turn the switch on, or you start the engine, and the water comes. But the center pivot irrigation was a tremendous benefit to the area.
Did your dad sell those systems as well, or
No.
just the drilling?
We didn't. We cooperated with those that did, but we decided our expertise was in bringing the water to the surface, and we'd let somebody else take it from there.
And so once the water did get to the surface, how was it used?
Well, the first primitive way was in ditches, and you dug the ditches and along the end of the field, and then you used siphon tubes. You know what a siphon tube is?
Well, I can.
Probably it was curved and an inch and a half, 2 inch, and for every row of your crop, you had a tube that one end was in the ditch, the other end was lower than that, so it would have
Gravity.
the siphon effect.
Okay.
And that was the situation until irrigation pipe was invented. Aluminum pipe with gates in it. They call it gated pipe.
Okay.
This eliminated the need for putting in the ditch, and eliminated the siphon tubes. I wanted to say that while these Army air bases were being built, there was a contractor named Andrew Larson who was a farmer, but also a road building contractor. And he and my dad were good friends, and they teamed together. He built the runways and graded the field and the drainage and so forth with his heavy equipment. At the same time, my dad was drilling the post holes and drilling the irrigation wells and putting in the pipe and so forth. And I ended up marrying his daughter.
Oh, that's the connection. Okay.
Yeah.
Karen.
Karen Larson Henkle.
Okay. Interesting. So, so you went through the Garden City public school system yourself?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Anything you'd like to say about the Garden City of your youth and what it was like to grow up here?
Had a great time. The schools were small, and I went to Buffalo Jones School over on the west side because we lived 3 miles west of town, and then to the junior high, which is now called Abe Hubert Junior High and Andrew Sabine High School. At that time, the high school and the junior college were in the same building. We boys didn't like that because the junior college guys would court the high school girls that we wanted to court. And so that we didn't think that worked so well, but it was fun to be together. And the junior high was next to the high school. Had a good time. I was not a good student.
No?
I was interested in athletics and spent most of my interest on basketball and baseball and tennis, and did not actually learn to study. Didn't have to. I was on the B honor roll, barely. Surprised when I was. But Karen was a scholar, and she took off after we got interested in each other our senior year, although we'd gone to church and school all those years together, and our families knew each other. And she took off for SMU her freshman year with another friend, and my brother was going to Texas University, and so I went to Texas University my freshman year too, partially to be closer to her. And but the schools in Garden City were fun. That we had good teachers.
How diverse were they? Was there already an immigrant population here when
There
you were?
was, yes, and quite established, particularly Mexican. Long time, a few generations. They continued to come, particularly when we were big in sugar beets. But had many, many Mexican friends that we were all integrated and played together and so forth. And a few black friends, one being Edgar Allan Poe, who was a pitcher on our
That was
baseball
his name.
team. Yeah.
So, do you remember any days of segregation in restaurants or
Yes,
the
I
pool,
do.
or-
I do. To my regret, we went to the state baseball tournament in Wichita, and when we were taken to the hotel, the two black fellows on our team were left in the car while we registered, and then they were taken to another hotel. And a couple of us particularly were mad about that, and said, "Well, let's go to that hotel." And the coach said, "No, just leave things alone." And but that was really the first that we experienced firsthand the segregation.
What year would that have been?
51.
Okay, so a decade before, almost a decade before desegregation. What were you expected to do with your life when you were a teenager? Was it family business?
Well, I didn't know. I was pretty worthless, and I did not didn't plan ahead. In fact, I've never planned ahead very well. But I just assumed that things would work out. And my older brother was a scholar and a hard driver like my dad. My dad was pretty tough on his employees, and more so than I wanted him to be, or that I was. I thought I had a different philosophy of giving second chances and so forth of employees. We at one time, I think we had 125 employees, and of course they had all kinds of problems with their marriage, with drinking, with fighting, with.
It was a rough crowd.
Yeah,
The
it could
drilling
be.
crowd.
And we expected a lot from them. We took them out away from their home for weeks or months when we were working distances away, and I had a lot more compassion, I thought, my dad would fire somebody on the spot if he thought they were not, if they didn't have their job at heart. I was more lenient, and I was criticized for that a lot, but it worked out pretty well.
So, back to the question though, you went into the family business. Was that a sort of a given, or was that something you chose?
It was kind of a given for me. My dad tried to talk me out of it because a lot of those things passed on to the next generation don't work out. And he said, "I don't want to force you to do something you would regret." And I always thought that he said that hoping that I would decide to stay with the company. And I did. And we were established here. We had 4 children here, and loved it.
Did your brothers also?
My brother
Or your brother?
did not. He worked with us in the summer sometimes, but he and Dad clashed, so they decided, in a friendly way, to not be together. So Jim went off, and he became the founding director under Nelson Rockefeller of the Pure Waters Authority for the state of New York. And Jim was a biologist and fit well in. He moved to New York and had a great time, lived there for a long time. But he's still living in New Jersey.
So your path back to the business, did you need to get a business degree or an engineering degree?
My
or
dad
did you
wanted me
just-
to have an engineering degree, but for two reasons. Was not adapted to engineering, but I was adapted to management. And I majored in business management, and every elective that I took was in history, so I had a double major, and Karen did too, in business and also in history, which I thought helped in general. We had a number of engineers that worked for our company on long term, and of course Dad and I had the practical experience.
And so you worked together with your father?
We did for a short time. He died in 68.
Oh, okay.
He had Parkinson's and Hodgkin's, so he died young, and I was not ready to take over the company. I was 32, I think, and he searched around for another manager, which was fine with me. I was running the field operation, and after many months of searching, he said, "Dick, you're it." And I wasn't happy with that, but I accepted that, and of course learned as we went along.
Tell me about some of the other innovations that were happening in the area at the time. You wrote a little bit about it, because not only was drilling and irrigation changing, but the whole cattle industry had changed.
Yeah, because of irrigation.
Right.
The cattle industry thrived, and corn started being grown here. Corn was not grown here because of the lack of water. Milo, alfalfa, a few other crops were, but corn was not, and many people said it just will not grow out here. It's too hot. It's the seasons are not good, and it takes a lot of water. And of course we agreed with that and said we will supply the water. God can supply it. We'll bring it to the surface. So that was a real change. Now corn is the big crop. It's fun to fly back and forth from Phoenix and see the corn crops and the circular irrigation.
The center pivots.
By the thousands. Yes.
Right. And we saw them flying in. So
Yeah.
so the water really changed what was grown.
Yes, and likewise with the cattle industry. Of course, they needed the corn, and they needed the water for the cattle. So it all went together. And Earl Brookover and my dad were good friends, and worked together. Likewise, the Garden City Company. I don't know if you've talked about them. The Garden City Company was headquartered out of Colorado Springs, but they were our largest customer because they owned so much land. We drilled them a few hundred irrigation wells.
And what did they do? They grew crops, or they?
Yes.
Okay.
Sugar beets primarily.
Okay.
They owned the sugar beet factory here.
Oh, sure.
And the power company, and so forth.
So they continued in operation for a while.
It's still in operation.
It's still in operation.
Uh-huh.
Sugar beets still being grown?
What?
Are sugar beets still being grown?
They're not here, and I don't know why. Maybe I just don't know
Probably
why.
sugar cane became the
Cane
main source of sugar.
might have taken over, and of course sugar beets took a lot of hand labor.
Right. Tell me a little bit about the oil and gas industry. That also grew.
Sure. Particularly the gas. We had very few oil wells in the early days, in the mid century, last century. A lot of gas, and for a couple of reasons. The oil was deeper and harder to obtain, and the gas, natural gas, was very available. So most all of the irrigation wells were run on natural gas. But as time went along and the prices of oil increased, there was a lot more demand for oil. So that Earl Brookover was one of the leaders in bringing oil to southwest Kansas also. And of course, in the recent days, Cecil O'Brate has been the big producer.
And I think you also mentioned that each homestead way back when was allowed one irrigation well and one natural gas well. Is that?
Well, not oil well, but natural gas. Yes,
Right.
One homestead on that quarter of ground was given free gas. And I don't know whether that's still continuing or not.
You all didn't get into the drilling for.
It was a different method.
Okay.
Once we had gotten to the reverse circulation air assist, it was different. Now we did drill a lot of surface holes. Every oil well took a surface hole to be cased down through the fresh water. That was required by the state to seal off where there would be no mixture between the oil and gas and the fresh water. So we did drill a lot of those, which only went through the Ogallala and the Dakota sandstone. So we did when we had time.
You just mentioned state requirements, and I'm wondering how, or if you have stories about government regulations and how they impacted your business over time, or if they changed.
Yes,
over
very
time.
very little regulation in the last century, but as people started understanding that the water is a resource that is so valuable and it is limited, there is a point when it will diminish. Then the regulations started coming into effect, and in the last 30 years there's been requirements for obtaining permits to drill the wells, and as regulations go, they continue to be extended more and more and more, where now it's difficult, almost impossible to get a permit to drill an irrigation well.
Is that right?
The only drilling that we do is replacement wells, and you can, I think the regulation now is within 300 feet of the location of a failed irrigation well, you can drill a replacement. So that's cut down on the demand for irrigation wells, and that was one reason we expanded into other areas. And when we sold our company in 2002, we were drilling in about 8 states for different purposes. In New Mexico for air vents for minerals, and in the front range in Colorado for water supply for municipalities and industrial. So we expanded out of irrigation into other things. As I mentioned, El Paso, we've drilled a lot for municipalities, San Antonio and Amarillo and West Texas areas.
What are your thoughts on the regulations? Do you think they're necessary in terms of water conservation?
Yeah, I think they are. It's kind of an unsolvable question. You know, a farmer can say, "This is my ground and everything under here is mine," but now you try to tell me I can't use my resource, and it's a tough question. And somewhere in between, regulations. Farmers have done very well with a lot less water than they used to use, and you could grow a lot of crops just from the wasted water. In the early days, we saw it as inexhaustible. So if you wasted it and let it run into the bar ditch overnight, so you could get a good night's sleep, you would do that. Not anymore. We can raise a crop better than we could when we took 1,200 gallons in a center pivot sprinkler we can do the same thing with 300 gallon now.
Interesting.
And
So it become more efficient.
yeah, God's given us the opportunity, the ability to respond to changes in the situation, and the farmers have certainly done that, as they have in many industries. If you can't do it one way, do it another way.
Mm-hmm. So does it concern you, though, that the water is depleting more and more, or is that not a...
There's still a vast supply.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my father getting, I think I told you this before, getting so upset with the agronomists and the supposed experts at Kansas State University that would say the water's running out, another 30 years and it's all gone.
Mm-hmm.
And Dad knew that it wasn't, that it was much more vast than that. But it is running out. It's harder to develop. It costs more to bring it from a lower level,
Mm-hmm.
and we can all agree that the supply is not inexhaustible.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not worried, because we'll continue to advance in development.
Another question I have has to do with who your employees were. Were they also... I know this whole area has had an influx of immigrants for the packing industry. Did you also employ immigrants, or
A lot of immigrants, yes.
from where mainly?
From Mexico primarily.
Okay.
Some, even today, some of our prime employees are immigrated during my lifetime, and have become good, solid citizens. Many we hired were not, just as many we hired that were not immigrants didn't work out.
Uh-huh.
But we probably, of that 120, which I think was about our peak number, probably 60 of those might have been not white.
Uh-huh.
There were some from South American countries, and we had a couple of Indians from India employed at one time.
And did you have a sense of what their experience was like here, whether they were welcomed or tolerated or not?
Yeah, there was certainly not welcoming in certain places. In Texas, we sometimes had questions about where we stayed. That was in the early days, but our employees got along well together.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of the immigrants we hired were of pretty good quality.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different populations living here now.
Oh yeah, there were not the Africans or the
Vietnamese
or
South
Vietnamese,
Asia.
Right?
So it's become quite a diverse place.
Sure has, and a lot of it for good.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still some people that
Challenges.
would rather it be the way it used to be.
Uh-huh.
But it's fine with me.
Well, tell me, we don't have a lot of time left in our interview, but I do want to ask you some questions just about Garden City in terms of what makes this community special to you, because you've been all over the world,
Mm-hmm.
and you're a pilot, but you still live here.
Mm-hmm. And we want to die here.
And you want to die here, okay. Well, while you're still alive, what is it that keeps you here? What do you think
Well,
makes this place
a good
unique?
share of it is the people.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a vacation state. People don't long to come to Kansas
Not for the
for
weather?
their time off. But we love it. We love the changes of season. We love the snow. We love the hot weather. But I think mainly for the people. They're generally friendly, supportive, interested in each other,
Mm-hmm.
and to a great extent, fun to be with.
I think you also mentioned that you feel that it's a pretty well educated crowd of. There is a educated crowd of successful people that.
Yes, a lot of
Works well
people, I think,
together.
that feel as we do, and that we need good education. So the junior college is the community college now. It used to be called the JUCO, but now the community college has served us very well in educating everyone that wants to be educated for a reasonable price. And I think that's helped a lot.
You've also become quite involved in community life. Do you want to mention any of the organizations that you serve or have served?
Well, we've been active with a lot of other people in founding the YMCA. We had a lot of opposition from the big older folks, and we were young. I forget when it was founded, but we weren't the city fathers when we founded it. But they came around when they saw that we needed it, and everybody got involved. It was a lot of fun. I was the chairman of the Big Gifts the first time, and it was a lot of fun to bring the big givers around. And it's been a wonderful success here for the city.
Why was there opposition?
We're not big enough for a YMCA. You know, those are for the big cities, and some of them thinking, "Uh-oh, it's going to cost me money if we do this." And if my and Earl Brooker was involved in it, Mr. Fassler, Mr. Burnside, these people that kind of made things work in the area. Came around and got behind it, and it made it ultimately successful.
That's great. If there hadn't been a family business for you, what else do you think you would have done?
Well, I don't know. I love flying. I started flying right out of college. I would imagine I would have become a commercial pilot.
Interesting.
I don't know.
What do you think you're proudest of?
Raising 4 children and helping with 14 grandchildren, and now 14 great-grandchildren.
Wow.
And being sure that they were spiritually well-grounded and well-founded in their life.
Is there anything you want them to carry on as a legacy, or things that you want for them?
Well, yes, I want them to serve in their community, to care for their fellow citizens, to be involved in spiritual things as well as political things, and have a well-rounded life. That's.
Nice. Anything else I haven't asked you about irrigation history or the drilling business that we need to make sure to include? I think you gave a really wonderful overview.
Well, it's been a cooperative effort, you know, from the ground up. The cattle industry, the irrigation industry, the farmer. We love dealing with easygoing farmers and the ones that are trusting that their operation will succeed, working hard, passing on to their children the farm. And I hate to see these little towns. Karen and I drove back yesterday from Phoenix, and to go through these little towns that are dying is kind of depressing.
Yeah.
But the children go to college and don't want to come back to what's there for them. They go somewhere else, but that's the way life is.
Well, I guess it makes me wonder what you think needs to continue here in Garden City so that doesn't happen.
Well, I think we're enough of a center for Southwest Kansas that I think we'll continue to grow rather than diminish. You know, we have, even though we have trouble keeping doctors, that they get talked into coming to Western Kansas, and they find that they're quite a ways from the entertainment and the intellectual centers, and they leave.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them, but many of them. So therefore, we have grown a lot of homegrown doctors and professional people that already know what Western Kansas is about.
You did call Western Kansas the stepchild of the political world.
That's right. That's
More
right.
cows than people here.
That's true.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Anything that I haven't asked you that you'd like to share?
You've been very, very, very good at interviewing me and reminding me of what we're talking about, but I thank you for the
I'm sure
opportunity.
there's very many more questions I could ask, but we are at an hour, so I think we'll close. And I thank you, sir, very much for letting me interview you. It's been a pleasure.
It's my pleasure, too. Thank you. It's been very pleasant.
Great.